Welcome back to another video, guys. Today I am going to be talking about the Stronger Than Fear squad pack for Star Wars Shatterpoint. I'm going to be doing something a little bit different from my last two videos, and I'm splitting this up into two parts. The second part is going to be Ezra and Zeb, and the first part is going to be Kanan Jarrus. So let's jump into it. I very briefly want to talk about the miniatures for this squad pack. I love them. I think all of these sculpts and poses are fantastic. I like that Kanan seems a little bit more patient and stoic with his pose, while Ezra is jumping into battle and running just to shoot and swipe at things with his lightsaber gun. Zeb is in the middle of the two, standing there sort of defensively and almost gruff looking, like he's ready to just take a big punch and knock some bucket heads together. So I really like them. I'm very excited to get them on the table, and I think they look great with the rest of the Spectre crew. So let's jump into Kanan. Kanan is the primary from this squad pack. He comes in with 8 squad points and 3 force. 8 is good. I thought maybe there would be a chance that he was a 7, but I think overall I'm glad that he's an 8. I'm hoping that Hera will also be an 8, so there's maximum mix and match for the squad as a whole, and being able to move other units in and out a lot easier if they're both an 8. His stats are 10 stamina, 3 durability, Force user, Jedi, Rebel Alliance, Scoundrel, and Spectre tags. Off the bat, 10 stamina is good. I think that's the standard for Force user primaries. I don't think he really needed to be an 11 or a 9. And he has access to a fairly good amount of defensive abilities and a bunch of heals. So that 10 could feel like a little bit more, but I think that's probably the best spot for him. 3 durability, as always, he's likely not going to be leaving the table. It's possible, but generally not going to happen. As for his tags, Force user and Jedi are good. They combo with a lot of different stuff, and some stuff in this squad pack. Rebel Alliance is good if you want to take him with Luke or Leia or any of the other Rebel stuff that has or will come out. Scoundrel is good. I think you could probably put him with maybe Mando, or you could even try Bad Batch, sort of thematic, potentially a lot of fun. And then Spectre is the most important tag on him and everybody from this squad and Hera's squad. Spectre opens up a ton of abilities for them, which I really, really like. I'm just going to say something here that I'm going to say about everything else from this box and Hera's box, and that's I like the fact that they have a special tag for them, being Spectre, but even if you want to run them with stuff that is not a Spectre, or want to just splash Ezra or Zeb into another list, you're not really going to lose out on a whole ton of value from that. So they can function with or without stuff that synergizes with that Spectre keyword, which I think is very nice. But I also thoroughly enjoy abilities that give you small bonuses for sticking to theme. So stuff like Bad Batch. If you're running a full squad of Bad Batch, or if you're running all of them, you get nice bonuses for that, but they are more than capable to be ran without the rest of their squad. And I have a feeling that the whole Ghost crew is going to feel the same way, which I'm a big fan of. So, looking at his abilities, his first is a tactic, a man with 2 names. At the start of this unit's activation, if the active stance is Form III Soresu, refresh force, and 1 character in this unit may heal. If its active stance is Pack Leader, choose an allied Rebel Alliance character. The chosen character may dash. Then, if the chosen character is a Spectre, 1 character in this unit may dash. So off the bat, this is great. I am a big fan of abilities that have you do something different based on the stance card that you're in. Stuff like Padme, stuff like Mace. I feel like it adds a nice little bit of planning ahead and strategy to the game that is otherwise not there. Not necessary, but it's not there. So I feel like it requires a little bit more thinking, which I like a lot. As for the ability itself, the first part, the Form 3 Soresu side, Refreshing Force, is great, especially when you consider that he has 3. Hera probably only has 3, but she might only have 2. And they don't seem terribly force hungry, but having a refresh is still very helpful nonetheless. So getting that refresh is clutch. Getting a little heal is also very helpful. If you have a pesky condition at the beginning of your activation that you want to get rid of, like a pin or a strain, you can just knock that baby off and then do whatever you want to do. The second part is also very good. Pack leader, you get to choose an allied rebel character. They get a dash, and then if you choose, if the chosen character was a Spectre, Kanan gets a dash. Now, I'm not sure off the top of my head if this works similarly to the other abilities we've seen like this, where Kanan can choose himself for the first dash, and then since he is a Spectre, he gets the second dash, so he would get 2 dashes instead of splitting them up between 2 units. I think that's how it works, but I could be incorrect there. Giving out of activation movements for anybody on his squad is going to be very good. There's no range limit. The only requirement is Rebel Alliance. So for me, I think I'm going to start every game in Pack Leader just to get stuff moving. And then later on switch to Soresu just for the refresh. And personally, I prefer the Soresu stance, but we'll talk about that once we get there. His second ability is an active ability, Force Push. Costs 2 force. We know this ability. We've seen it on a bunch of other characters. It is fantastic. Diceless displacement is very, very valuable. You can do shoves. Shoves are fine, but being able to guarantee a push, especially one that is a range 3 push, like that's a very long way to push something, it is very valuable. So I love that he has this. I was hoping that he would be the one who had this and not Ezra, just because I'm personally a bigger fan of Kanan, and I'm really excited to get him on the board simply just because he has Force Push. His third ability, Reactive Deflect, we also have seen this one, very common, very good. If you don't have any other reactive abilities to use at the same triggering time, then this is just pure profit. If they roll a fail, you do 2 damage. It's good. There's not much to say here. His fourth and last ability is his Identity ability. Now I know there's something stronger than fear. When an allied Rebel Alliance unit is wounded by an enemy attack, after the effect is resolved, one character in this unit may heal twice and then jump. Then, if the wounded unit is a Spectre, one character in this unit may make a 5 dice attack. So, once again, it's a split ability, which we're going to see a lot of, where the first part is triggering off of Rebel Alliance, and the second part is triggering if that unit is Spectre. So, the first part is very good. Wounding is something that your opponent is going to be trying to do to you anyway, so you don't have to worry about trying to get this to pop. He gets 2 heals and a jump, so once again, you could heal a pin or strain off before you do that jump, or you can just take some damage off. I am personally wish that the heals and jumps could happen in any order, but I understand why they don't. I just wouldn't mind the ability for him to be able to move and then heal an ally if you want to, but I understand why that's not the case. And then if the unit is a Spectre as well, Kanan gets a 5 dice attack. Now, it doesn't specify any sort of range. It doesn't specify range as in he has to be within range 5 of them when they get wounded or something like that. And it doesn't specify the attack range. So it can be a melee or ranged attack. Obviously, if it's a ranged attack, it still has to be within 4 because that's how far he can shoot. And you still need line of sight. But this is great. He can do it potentially a ton of times during a refresh, during a struggle, because it's not a reactive ability. It will never cost anything, and the stipulations are pretty loose. So overall, I think this identity is very good. It's going to potentially make him feel pretty potent in combat when he's throwing 5 dice left and right and healing and jumping. I think overall he's quite powerful. I'm excited to get him on the table. I'm hoping he lives up to what I think he's going to be doing. Now, here's a small side note about his identity, which is something that we've also seen with Bad Batch and other units, and that is the interaction with bounty hunters and payday. So with payday, you can spend a force to give whatever unit has that keyword a certain tag. Now, if you give them the people's inclination is to give them the Spectre tag so that his identity will proc off of that. However, they need both the Rebel Alliance and the Spectre tags for him to get the full effect. Just like with Bad Batch, in order for Hunter's identity to proc, they need to be a clone trooper and they need to be Bad Batch, and you can't get two from payday. So this will only work if you give them the Rebel Alliance keyword. With bounty hunters, Kanan will only be able to get those heals and jump. Now, moving on to his stances. His first stance is Form 3 Soresu. He starts off with no ranged attack, 8 attack dice in melee, 6 defense dice at range, and 5 in melee. So off the bat, that's pretty standard for Jedi primaries. They usually don't have a ranged attack on both sides. Some of them don't even have a ranged attack on either side, which is fine because he's rolling 8 in melee and he has plenty of ways to get there pretty easily. His defense is solid. I like that he has 6 defense range. That feels very good. And he has 5 in melee, which still feels quite good. Okay, let's look at his attack expertise. Off the bat, it generates a crit at every level, which is very good. It makes him super consistent. He's getting an additional strike at 1 to 2 and at 3, and then an additional crit at 4, and then a jump at 3 or more. So overall, very good. It's going to help him feel a little bit more mobile. It's going to help him feel more consistent in melee, and it maintains a 1-to-1 ratio of expertise to results until you roll 4 or more. So that's pretty solid. I think I wouldn't mind to see maybe another strike on 4+ or a heal or something like that, but overall I think it's very good. His defensive expertise is also very good. He's getting 2 blocks at every level, which is excellent. And then at 2 or 3, he's getting a crit to a fail, and at 4 or more, he's getting a crit to a fail and a heal. So, once again, he's maintaining a 1-to-1 ratio of expertise to results or better until you're rolling 5 or more expertise, which is not going to happen very often. So, that ratio is very powerful, and I talk about it a lot, but I just want to nail in that it is very good. 2 blocks at every level, going to make him feel great. Crit fails are also very good. They're like a block plus kind of, and then a heal at 4 is just a nice little cherry on top. Let him get some more heals in there. Moving to the combat tree. The first thing to notice is a shove on 1. Shoves on 1 are very good. It means you don't have to rely as heavily on dice to get that shove that you need. He also has force push, so if you really need to move something, you can just do that, not have to rely on dice at all, but it's pretty common that he is going to be getting at least one success. So overall, you can generally rely on that shove to go off. Otherwise, this combat tree tops out at 7 total damage possible, with a whole slew of different conditions that you can do: disarm, expose, or pin. Then he can do a reposition or a jump depending on which way you go, and he can do up to 2 shoves also depending on which way you go. The second big thing to look at on this tree is the free active ability at the end of his tree where everything converges. Free force push is incredible. Force push is an expensive ability. It's worth spending 2 force on. It's sometimes probably even worth spending 3 force on. But if you can get it to pop for free off of attack, especially after you've already shoved them 2 times and done 7 damage to them, it's going to feel great. So I love seeing the free active on his tree, and I personally am going to be spending a lot of time on this side just gunning to get that free force push. Moving on to Pack Leader, his second stance. Starts off with 7 attack dice at range 4, 6 in melee, and 5 defense dice for both. Off the bat, this base is pretty solid. 7 attack dice at range 4 is actually fairly good, especially for a Jedi. I think it's hilarious that he is one of the few Jedi who, in the middle of a fight, will just whip out a gun and start shooting stuff. So I like that they were able to incorporate that into one of his stances. His ranged attack expertise is very good. There is an error on it, though, and we still have not gotten clarification on exactly how the error needs to be fixed. But if you look at his levels, it goes 1, 3, 3 or more. So my assumption, and I think most people's assumption, is that that middle row should be a 2. So it'll go 1, 2, 3. But it could be something different. So as far as this review goes, I'm going to assume that that is supposed to be a 2 in the middle. So, crit at every level. At least 1 crit at every level. Once again, very good. He's getting a crit and a strike at 1, 2 crits at 2, 2 crits and a reposition at 3 or more. So, 1-to-1 ratio or better, generating crits, at least 1 crit, sometimes 2 crits at every level, and extra mobility. This expertise chart has everything that I love. And I cannot wait to just go blasting into battle with him. I think he's going to prove to be exceptionally mobile, and I'm hoping the rest of his squad is as well. As for his melee expertise, it is the same icons. So once again, crit or 2 at every level, strike at 1 to 2, and then a reposition at 4 or more. However, the levels are slightly different. Well, they are probably slightly different, where it's 1 to 2 is the first level, 3 is the middle level, and 4 or more is the last level. So I think it's still very good. It's honestly arguably better than his melee expertise on Soresu, but he's rolling fewer dice, so it's a little bit of a trade-off. Overall, very good. I think this side is going to be very consistent in combat and very good in combat once we get looking at his tree. But moving on to his defensive expertise. Once again, quick key notes. Block or 2 at every level and extra mobility. I love it. He's getting a block and a dash at 1, 2 blocks and a dash at 2, 2 blocks and a reposition at 3. So, very good. I kind of miss some sort of crit mitigation, even if it was just a crit to a strike at one of these higher levels. But with that being on Soresu, I think it's overall fine. The fact that he's getting a dash or a reposition every time he's rolling an expertise is fantastic. Once again, adding to his already good overall mobility. So I think this side is still very defensive. I think Soresu is definitely the side that you want to be on if you need to defend well. But this side is perfectly serviceable and will treat you very well if you need to be moving around the board. So, moving on to his combat tree. This one is a little bit more damage oriented. It tops out at 10 possible damage, which is excellent. There is a shove on 2. Once again, shoves on 1 and 2 are very good. Generally means you're going to almost guarantee it every time you attack, especially if you're generating as many crits as he is, which is incredible. He gets a shove or a pin on 3, which is good. I think that it offers a nice choice. I don't know if there's one correct answer always. And then they converge at 4 for a reposition. And then the 5th column is, I find it kind of hilarious, but both boxes have 4 results, which already is very good. The top box is 1 heal and 3 damage, and the bottom box is 1 damage and 3 heals. So they're just the inverse of each other. Both have perfectly good use cases. I think generally speaking, unless you really need 3 heals, you're just going to be going to the top one, getting that 1 heal and then the 3 damage. So it means that he's going to be punching pretty hard, which I am a big fan of. I want him to be killing stuff, but there's no free active on this side, so no free force push, which I don't like. I want force push to be happening, and I want it for free. So even though this side seems to be a little bit more consistent in combat and definitely does more damage, personally, I think I'm going to be spending most of my time on Soresu just to be trying for that free force push. It's still 7 damage. You're still getting a decent amount of conditions and shoves. So I think overall they're both pretty similar. It's just, do you want that 3 extra damage or do you want that free active? I think there are certain situations where you'd want either one, but for me, I'm just a bigger fan of the Soresu. So overall, I think Kanan is very good. I'm super excited to get him on the board. I love Rebels. I love his character, and I think his unit in game is actually quite good. His tactic is excellent, force push is excellent, and his identity is fairly good. It's not the best we've seen, but I think it's perfectly serviceable. I'm super excited to get him and the whole Ghost crew on the table, and July cannot come soon enough. Thank you for watching. I'm immediately going to follow up by making and posting the Ezra and Zeb video, so watch out for that. I'm going to attempt to put them in a playlist or queue of some kind so they will play immediately after each other. But other than that, thank you for all the support I've been getting, and I hope you guys continue to enjoy the videos that I'm making. Peace.